Finally live. I believe we're good. Are we good? Let me move this camera up here, people, so I can see a little better. Okay, I think that's cool. Here we go. All right, sorry about that technical difficulty. My phone wasn't working yet again. We film with a telephone. Hi, welcome to the Dinosaur Omelet.
Hi, my name is Angela.
What's my name? I'm Christopher. Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome here if you're the first time in. Appreciate you coming in. These are live question and answer and education sessions. We do these quite a while, every week, usually every Thursday. If you have a question and you're live, please leave it in the comment. If you're not watching this live, leave a comment or question. We always get back to them because, the phone goes ding, 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 and lets me know somebody has a question. All right, cool. So generally, we'll start this about 5 minutes in, see if anybody stops in, gets populated, and to work out any technical stuff and to kind of go over information about us and questions that we'd like to answer. Okay? Anything you'd like to add, ma'am?
We focus on, Christopher kind of touched on this, we focus on providing educational material to you guys. We want to encourage you to learn new skills, to learn things that will better the quality of your life, things that will help if you have a family, any kids, to help do things together, to be outside, using your hands, getting in the dirt, being in the sunshine, and being a part of growing things that will benefit your life, your health, and
all kind of stuff.
yeah.
And make you happy overall. It's just that whole self-improvement thing, incremental change, we get better. Yeah, and growing your own eggs. So a little bit about us. We have a hatchery here in lovely southern Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is actually a very pretty spot. It's very hilly. But we have a hatchery and we focus on jumbo Coturnix quail, jumbo quail. They're quite popular now. Why are they quite popular now? Well, because they're very easy to manage for your own egg and meat production. You raise them in hutches. They don't cost a fortune. They're relatively inexpensive, particularly compared to chickens. And they don't, you don't need a huge run, big coop. And it really doesn't annoy the neighbors too much because they're smaller. Oh, our friend Taco.
Hi, Taco.
What's your real name?
Oh, I don't remember.
Is it Marissa? No.
No.
I forgot your real name. But now I know you're a friend from TikTok. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Well, welcome back.
Silkies.
Yes.
But the quail, of course, too, are popular because they produce eggs very quickly. So those hens, they mature at 6 weeks old. They're able to reproduce at the age of 6 weeks. And so they're gonna start, producing eggs and become more consistent by 8 weeks old, as opposed to a chicken. If you're starting from a chick, it's going to take anywhere from 5 to 7 months to get that first egg.
Yeah, it's they are very rapid. They grow very quickly. So they grow very rapidly.
And they lay a lot of eggs.
Yeah. Now, you people out there looking for quail, you got to be careful now because quail have become popular. So what does that mean? What does that mean? They're easy to breed. That means there's a million new breeders. And they're not everybody does a very good job with breeding. Not to badmouth the entire planet, but I have to caveat emptor, buyer beware, do your due diligence and research whoever you're getting any animal from, because they should have a strict breeding program for quality output. It is a product. They should kind of make sure their product is good, but animals are easy to reproduce. You just put them in a box, shake them up, and a week later you got new animals. So anybody can do that, but to do it properly requires a little bit of academic scrutiny. Okay, keeping numbers, logs, measuring things. So your breeder should know what they're doing. So do find a competent breeder if you're looking for quail.
Yeah, and of course the goal is to have quality, healthy, vibrant animals that are not, aged out and stop laying. You want them to be young, and if you're buying from somebody, you want them to be either, very young or just laying, or whatever it is you're looking for, that you want to make sure that you're getting what they say you're getting. Right.
Yeah. This is show and tell for people who've never seen the quail eggs. This is a quail egg. Yeah, they're smaller than chicken eggs. It's like 3 to 1. 3 of these equals 1 chicken egg. It's a little bigger one. But what's really interesting is these guys, like if they commit a crime, right, and they lay an egg, forensics will go back because they lay the same pattern, right?
Yeah,
it's like a fingerprint.
Yeah, it's very...
So if you're a quail robbing a bank, do not lay an egg, because I'll track it back
Yeah,
to you.
don't leave your egg there.
Because it's
The egg
individual.
pattern is unique to the hen who lays it, and the pattern may look slightly different from egg to egg, but overall you're gonna see a pattern in the ink colors. And as she's laying the egg, that's when the that ink, the spotting, is put on the shell.
Right. Cool. Are we ready? So in conclusion, married couple raises quail in Pennsylvania somewhere, and they are teaching stuff on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. That's my non-professional presentation. Well, it's true. Okay, cool. All right, so I kind of have, this is good information. We're doing an introduction to poultry nutrition. Poultry nutrition is referring to specific dietary requirements for a bird. It's different than a mammal. Okay, they have different growth rates, different growth needs. And, you want to have the proper nutrition for their, for what? For their, not just their growth, their egg production, their behavior, okay?
Their ability to
Their longevity, reproduction, etc.
to keep off illness.
Yes. So, and poultry require specific nutrients in specific amounts. I'm going to go over a little bit about that tonight. Okay. First and foremost, so like before I get into the academic crap, I'm going to go over like my base position with this. So when looking at whatever you're doing with the feed operation with an animal or a wellness, any kind of care for any kind of animal or system. So these are all systems. These are all systems. The chicken is a complex biological system living in a social system, et cetera, and they break down. So when we're talking about poultry nutrition, we're talking about optimal health for this very complex system. Chickens are derived from a wild animal in the Indonesian jungle called the red jungle fowl. The Gallus gallus is its Latin name. Gallus domesticus is the domesticated chicken, but their biology is quite similar to their old buddy in the forest. So they have the same, very similar nutritional requirements that they were adapted to. What does a chicken eat in the natural, out in the wild? Well, optimally, if you really want to keep your chicken super healthy, you're going to give it a very natural diet that it has in the wild, which is what? Insects, right? Plants that it's scraping around for, minerals in the ground, and even small mammals. But we rarely,
reptiles.
Yeah, or reptiles. But we rarely go to the feed store and see a bag of mice and lizards with some other whatnots, insects in there. It would be rather expensive. So when we're doing poultry nutrition at home, we're feeding them really what I guess a simulated diet, and we're trying to simulate the nutrients found that they would be getting naturally in their grazing and foraging. That's why the free-range chickens are very robust and healthy, because they're much more eating at their ancestral level prior pre-domestication. Hope that made a lot of sense. It wasn't too rambling.
Yeah,
so when we're talking about treatment for these things or care or for anything really, I tend to look at those as very complex systems, far too complex to really fully comprehend, but the fundamentals are usually all the same, particularly with biological entities. They're seeking a state of equilibrium, right, or homeostasis. They want to function optimally. They're like, they're not way up here, they're not way down here, they're just living well because they're eating well, their environmental needs are met, and in chickens' cases, their social needs are met, their safety and disease prevention, etc., are all met. So living optimally, and one of those major components of their system is their nutritional needs. Okay. That was an intro, and I'm doing this on the fly, so maybe I should get a script. Anyway, so that was an intro to that. What am I going into? So we talked about chicken nutrition. I want to go over the digestive system for you. I know you guys, if you're hearing me, if you're having any problem with this audio, it was clicking, please let me know.
Yes, please put a comment. We are using a new mic, so we're...
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, technical difficulties. Let us know if there's a clicking or anything that you hear.
Okay, cool. So before we get into the macro and micronutrients, I just want to go a brief overview of the chicken digestive tract. All right, chickens don't have teeth. We all know this. Chickens don't have teeth, but they kind of chew their food, right? So they're going to eat their food. They're eating, and they're guzzling up some water, and they swallow it down the esophagus, just like the eating tube, and it goes into
The crop.
the crop.
It's like a storage facility.
Yes. So the first area of digestion, I guess, major digestion anyway, is in the crop. It's that pouch. If you feed your chickens, you'll feel it.
At the base of their neck.
The food they're eating goes down there in the base of the neck. What's it doing? It's absorbing water and breaking down a little.
Yeah, it is.
Softening.
It's starting the process.
And some enzymes are introduced there too.
But a lot of the food that they eat during the day is going to be stored there, and then more of the digestion will progress once they're in a resting state. Usually like in the evening when they're just resting. It's going to continue moving on from the crop more efficiently, more effectively. I suppose.
Yeah, so it's more like a prep area.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like having a bunch of food jammed in my cheeks that I just carry around all day. So that's what the crop is. Mm-hmm. And their food that they're getting, they don't chew it, right? It's just whole seeds. Remember, these chickens are adapted from their wild cousin. They're not eating pellets. They're not eating smashed up grains. They're eating whole things. They don't chew it. They're just swallowing them whole.
They're not like alligators, where alligators will just eat the whole thing, or they'll do the death roll to tear it apart. Chickens, if it's too big and they're able to, they'll grab it and try to break it with their beak. That sort of
vulture
thing.
Style.
Yeah.
So they'll try to if it's.
But they're not sitting there chewing with their.
Yeah,
beak.
they're not chewing and not swallowing stuff they can't handle. They know, like animals are smart, or at least their instinctive drive is highly adapted. Mm-hmm. So they know what's safe to eat and what's not. So things are stored in the crop, then it goes into what's called the proventriculus. Proventriculus. Want to say it with me, everybody? Proventriculus. I really should. It's live. So what's the proventriculus? It's our stomach. So that's the chemical digestion area. So it's going into the crop, getting prepped and ready for the proventriculus, or the stomach. It's a glandular stomach where the initial enzymatic digestion begins and occurs. Enzymes are proteins that facilitate metabolic processes. They're like little workers, if you will, that help break down compounds. Mm-hmm. I'm trying not to keep this extremely complex.
No, that makes it much more entertaining.
Well, I mean, just having a basic understanding.
It's easier to visualize.
Because if you take care of these animals, these things are going to come up again, and especially if you're dealing with veterinary issues, you want to have some competency, some functional knowledge of the animal and its needs, and some of the very basic terms. So, because what happens, like when we go to the doctor or the vet, they'll use doctor speak, and we just nod like we know what the hell's going on, like we're so smart.
And you go home, and somebody asks you, what was it? And you're like, I don't even know what they said.
I'm not going to die, so I'm okay.
And then they give you the papers, and it has these big words on the papers.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what that is. Let me go ask Google. Mm-hmm. So, familiarizing yourself with some of this stuff. So we went to the crop, we went to the proventriculus, which is the stomach. The doctor's not going to say proventriculus probably, unless they're trying to teach a kid or something. So going into the the most similar to like what we have, like acids, are being introduced, enzymes to break down the food, and then it goes into Angela's favorite part.
The gizzard.
The gizzard.
The gizzard is like a muscle. And it's like a strong muscle that contracts.
Yeah, remember, we didn't say they chew their food.
Yeah, so as the chicken is milling about, looking for foods, as needed, they will pick up little pebbles, small rocks, and they'll eat it. And it'll travel down into the gizzard, and then it'll stay in the gizzard for as long as it's not, until it grinds away. And those little pebbles and rocks become their teeth in that muscle. And what happens is the food passes into the gizzard where the rocks are. The gizzard will start contracting, and those pebbles and rocks will start grinding away the food that they're consuming and eating and digesting, and then it'll break it down and make it much easier to pull those nutrients as it goes into the next section. The small intestine.
Small intestine, just like us. That's where a lot of the nutrient absorption is occurring. So down the small intestine, what's happening? Nutrient absorption, enzymes again from pancreas and bile and liver are aid in digestion of the fats and carbohydrates. And what happens with the carbohydrates? Of course, they're getting sent off to the bloodstream for energy, the direct energy, right? Mm-hmm. Simple stuff. And then chicken has something special called cica.
Where is that? Is that after the small
After the
intestine?
small intestine, and this is kind of like a, I guess I call it, it's a fermentation factory. So a lot of the foods we eat and a lot of food the animals eat is not digested really by us. It's digested by microorganisms. You know, you all hear gut microbiota and the gut microbiome. So what's going on there is the little bacteria and organisms, and there's viruses or little critters down there, trillions of them really in us and in the birds. They're breaking down the food or fermenting it, which is producing, when the fermentation takes place in these components of our body or the chicken's body, the sacca. What's happening is there's metabolic processes that the microorganisms instigate. And their byproducts, like what they're spitting out, happens to be beneficial compounds. It's breaking down some food. It's like pre-digesting it, I guess, really breaking it down for the animals so they can easily absorb nutrients from those foods, and it's creating other like vitamins byproducts. We know we did a video on how to ferment chicken feed, I guess last week. It's in the regular videos if you want to watch it. That's an interesting process. So that's a brief intro to the digestive tract of chicken. They swallow it, goes to the crop, goes down to their fake human stomach, proventriculus, where the stomach acids are. Then it goes down to the gizzard, gets ground up, small intestine to be absorbed, down into the sacca pouches to ferment even further and prep it. Okay, cool. Was that easy?
I think so.
So do remember this with your feed, and we're going to talk about feed next. So chickens have a high metabolic rate, they have a high body temperature, and they process things rapidly. So nutrient deficiencies will become symptomatic much more quickly than a big mammal. Are you yawning?
Sorry, it's late. We've
So,
done a lot today.
Because they have a high metabolic rate, their nutrient deficiencies will manifest a little more quickly. And you may see like lethargy, or maybe their eggs are weak. Okay?
The eggshells?
Eggshells, right? Lack of calcium. So these things will begin to show. And I forgot my whole thing.
Their feathers will even look dull, or if they're growing new feathers out.
No, I was going to say, I
take a
forgot
really
my
long
whole,
time.
what do you call it? I'm not a vet.
Oh, yes.
This is not veterinary advice, nor am I a medical
Disclaimer.
doctor. This is purely for entertainment purposes only, substantiated from my experience and use of these products with animals. Okay. So yeah, so the chicken has a high metabolic rate, and if it has a nutrient deficiency, it'll show much quicker than it would like any human. So, and we talk about starvation. What is starvation, right? We're not getting food, so we start eating ourselves, really. Like we start seeing muscle, lean tissue being used, and the chicken, the same thing. They'll start. You've seen a sick animal before. They look scrawny because they have high metabolic rates, and they get thin quick.
And they'll be slower. They're not going to be as active. And like I mentioned, their feathers are going to look duller. If they're molting, it might take a lot longer for them to complete that process. And yeah, I mean, because they have personalities, the chickens do, and it's just like a human. That lethargy is gonna make them seem, almost sort of depressed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when they're not getting what they need nutritionally, it affects everything about them, just like it does us and anything else that consumes things to be alive. Yeah. So
Now I'm going to talk about feed. So we do produce a feed. Just to let you know, we do have lots of experience with feed. We make a whole grain feed. And like I was saying earlier, the chickens don't chew. So people are very hesitant, like, because of our intuition. As humans, we want things that look like it's easy for us to chew. And so we intuitively apply that kind of thought onto the bird, which is a different species. So they function a little different than the human. So they do eat whole grain, like a hard piece of corn. They'll swallow that, and it's perfectly fine for them, and they can fully digest it. Whereas we would not. We can't. We don't have the capacity.
pass right through.
Yeah. Even if we chewed it up, it would be difficult to digest. So they are very specifically designed to eat whole things. Right?
Yeah, and when you think even Tweety birds, people are feeding them whole seeds.
You guys have seen the British documentaries. And the human being with his upright walking developed a very large brain. Now he needed lots of fat and protein to feed the brain. And we're a little different. So we have different needs because we walk on 2 feet and we have language and that's all fun. The chickens have kind of chicken language.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right. So macronutrients, like when you're looking at a feed, it's going to have, what do they call it? Guaranteed analysis. It's a little tag. Do I have one out here? Let me see if I got a guaranteed analysis. Crob's not. No.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. I'm a very unprepared I could never be a college professor. Anywho, so on the back of your food, there's going to be a guaranteed analysis. I hope that shows up. And it'll tell you that you can't see it. It's a
Maybe
little blurry.
put it in front of your face.
Put it in front of my face?
No, like cover your face,
Okay.
trying to focus on your face instead.
It's all right. So there's a guaranteed analysis, and they're usually on the back. They should be. They're required to be on the sack of chicken feed so you know what you're getting. There's broiler feeds, there's layer feeds, there's grower feeds, there's different feeds, game bird feeds, there's different kinds of feeds because what? Because these different birds at different stages have different nutrient requirements.
Including different breeds. Even.
Including the different breeds, right? Because you breed the lovely silkies. And
yeah,
they
the
have
more exotic breeds, they do have a little bit more need in the vitamin area to keep up that really nice plumage and behavior. Sometimes behavior traits are different. Like silkies go broody. They want to sit on eggs, and that can be taxing on their body.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. Know the breed you're working with and its specific needs. And a lot of times you talk about getting feed from like mills to save money, which is perfectly fine. If you do use a mill, like a feed mill, they get bulk amounts of grain from the local farms. It's fresh, okay? It's locally sourced. It's good stuff.
And if they're crushing the grain, if the feed mill person is crushing the grains or making a meal, then it's fresh. Like they're crushing it themselves. They're not buying it from somewhere and it's been sitting for 6 or 8 months crushed. What happens is it oxidizes. It's exposed to the interior, is exposed to the air, and that nutrient density, that content in there is going to start to deteriorate. So it won't, once the chicken eats old crushed grain, it won't really have that nutrient it started with.
Correct, because of the oxidation.
Yeah, so the feed mills,
if it sits around for a while,
they have fresh food is what my point is.
Right, so it's still going to be nutritively dense. Okay, so here's a breakdown of macronutrients and what they are. You guys are all familiar with these: protein, carbohydrate, fat. So proteins, obviously, maybe you know, maybe you don't know. They are broken down in the digestive process into their amino acid constituent parts. Now, the amino acids are important because chickens have specific needs as far as amino acids go. Okay, they have essential amino acids. And then there's this couple of essential amino acids called the limiting amino acids. I wrote a whole fun part on this. I mean, I know what they are. So limiting amino acids are lysine, methionine.
Did you easily define what macronutrient is versus amino acid? Like, did you say like what that is to make it easy to understand as they listen?
Yeah, the macronutrients: proteins, carbohydrates.
It's like the main
proteins
things that the body needs.
Yeah, the proteins are made of amino acids. Carbohydrates are the starches, and they're broken down into simple sugars. We all know this. Fats are the fatty acids that we use. And you got me off track.
You were talking about the limiting amino acids.
Sorry, yeah, limiting amino acids. So anyway, chickens, they have essential amino acids. They also have these, what's called limiting amino acids, and they're listed on the, what do you call this?
The guaranteed analysis.
My brain. They're always listed on the guaranteed analysis: lysine and methionine. Well, let's take a look at this one. It has a minimum of 0.91% of the content is that lysine, and then 0.47% is the methionine in this mix.
And
why is that important?
Yes.
So the limiting amino acid, this is really cool because you're going to hear this, and if you're talking to a chicken person and they say, oh, the limited amino acids, you're going to go like this. Because nobody wants to look dumb. So limiting amino acids, just remember the word limiting. It limits the use of the other amino acids, which means without the lysine, methionine, and threonine, in the necessary amounts, okay, the chicken's biology cannot use the otherwise met needs amino acids. So all the other amino acids in the diet are present in sufficient amounts. If they do not have the proper amount of lysine and methionine in that diet, their body won't be able to use all the other amino acids that are otherwise in sufficient amounts.
And these particular ones, these amino acids, are important for the development of the bird, the form, the structure, the feathers, that sort of thing.
Yeah, if you're working with a poultry nutrition person, they're going to be, they're going to talk about that. That's a medical thing. A deficiency in that is not good.
Yes.
That's where you're going to have health issues, consequential health issues. I mean, you would have consequential health issues for many of them. Okay, so fats. Why are fats important? Fats, of course, are good for energy. We all know that. But they're also cell membrane, okay, the cell membrane integrity, as well as hormone synthesis. Speaking of hormones are made of what? Amino acids, the little proteins. Same with enzymes. Proteins are not just for getting jacked and making meat. They do a lot of functions in the body. They're very, very important. I could spend hours and hours talking about that, which I shall not. So protein, carbohydrate, and fat are going to be the macronutrients in that feed. In a layer feed, 16 to 20% of protein. Is that about right?
Yeah, for an
For
adult
a
layer, yeah, it's usually around, for your standard layers, it's usually around 16 to 18%. For the breeds that are mature hens, that might be more exotic, the bantams, the mini breeds, the silkies, and some breeds that might take a little longer in growing, the higher percentage, like the 20% for the mature bird would be good, yeah.
Right. And carbohydrates, they're generally 50 to 60%, and the fats are only 2 to 5%, which is interesting because we humans need a lot of fat in our diet.
Mm-hmm.
I know. You listen to the internet, and there's always somebody telling you conflicting information. Well, do you know what your brain's made of? It's a big thing of fat. That's all it is. It's a big chunk of fat, and we do need lots of fat in our diet. Essential fatty acids. Okay, cool. So nutrients specific to poultry. I guess we talked about theanine and lysine. I want to give you guys some interesting information. Okay, so vitamin A, important for maintaining vision, immune function, epithelial integrity, which is inside of the blood tubes. I got no brain.
Veins?
It helps,
Arteries?
It helps the health of skin and mucous membranes, which are the first lines of defense against pathogens. Same with us. Okay, you have mucous membranes against pathogens. But the interesting thing about vitamin A, okay, we don't use vitamin A. Chicken doesn't use actually vitamin A. They have to synthesize. They have to synthesize it into something called retinol. Okay, retinol. We do it and the chicken does it. So the chicken is very efficient at synthesizing retinol, okay, from the beta carotene to actually use it. They do this. Humans are very inefficient at doing this. If we get it from a plant source, okay, a vegetarian animal, an animal that eats plants, that's designed for plants, is good at the synthesis of beta carotene into retinol, the usable form. This is the bioavailable, a usable form of vitamin A. Okay, your body has to do that before it absorbs it. So when you're eating a carrot, you think you're getting a lot of vitamin A. You actually aren't. What's happening is you're getting some for sure. There's going to be a synthesis, but at a very low rate. For a human, it's 24 to 1. 24 to 1. So only 4 to 8% of that vitamin A is being converted into retinol, the usable form of vitamin A.
Did you say what vitamin A is good for?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
In the chicken, they're getting a 2 to 1. So human is converting vitamin A beta carotene into the usable form called retinol at about 24 to 1, whereas the chicken's doing it at 2 to 1, up to about 4 to 1. So very much more efficient. So they can use that vitamin. I think that was really cool. So this goes back to, and I read a lot about and study nutrition for a long time. There's a difference between, food before it gets into the body, when it's sitting outside of the body, the way they measured it and interpret it. Hi, Verna. Thanks for coming down in. This is kind of like this is one of those teachy ones. It's not more of a free form. So, yeah, so that's really interesting. Vitamin D, crucial for the calcium and phosphorus metabolism, and how they're going to absorb the calcium. Oh, good. Well, layer feed, I forgot. Layer feed's going to have calcium in it,
Yes.
right? Of course. You have to let others know the facts. Yeah, and if I get a fact wrong, somebody please correct me. I try not to get my facts wrong, but nobody's perfect. I don't spell my name G-O-D, so I don't know everything. But I like this. This is very interesting to me. We're big food people. I cook everything from scratch. I continually try to learn about the micronutrients and the way our metabolism functions for optimal health, which transfers fundamentally to all organisms, like fundamentals. Specifics are different, but the way we function as biological organisms are very, very similar to any other in the animal kingdom. They have fundamental needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Vitamin D, crucial for the calcium and phosphorus metabolism, playing, of course, an important role in making of bones and eggshells. Remember, chickens with a high metabolism, they show their deficiencies very rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how long do you think it would be if you stopped giving calcium before you get shellless or brittle eggs?
It does depend on the hen, but it doesn't take very long. So if you're giving a feed that has the calcium and then you stop, you give them a different feed or no calcium in the feed. Some hens, it could be a matter of like 2 weeks where you'll start seeing brittle shells.
Sure.
Other hens, you might not see a real difference at all because it's probably pooling from their body or. But some hens they keep it up pretty well. But yeah, it doesn't take long for if they're not getting the calcium they need to maintain those hard shells. To see the no shells or very brittle.
Vitamin D is very, very important for our health, human health and chicken health. In fact, I think it's the only vitamin that we humans do synthesize from the sunlight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go outside, expose your skin to the sun, you start synthesizing vitamin D. So it probably indicates it's probably pretty important. Yeah. Chickens also do get sun, right? And their skin does the same thing. Their skin will synthesize vitamin D. I know they're covered in feathers, but the sun actually does get down to them where the feathers are thinner. So,
and they sun themselves too. You'll see them lay out and lift their wings, so then it kind of exposes their skin underneath the wing, and they'll stretch out in the sun. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. All right, vitamin E. We like vitamin E in the diet. Functions as an antioxidant, just like in us. Protects cells from oxidative damage, oxidative stress. We don't like that. That's bad. Mm-hmm. And it improves our immune response, or chicken's immune response. Like I said, it's fundamentals. It's basically back and forth with chickens and us. Along with more calcium, they need more fiber that will ward against prolapse. Very good. Thanks, Verna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prolapse. Maybe you should go into that because people might not know what that is.
So prolapse, it tends to happen when laying an egg. If those egg-laying muscles are weakened, the interior part of the hen will come out,
That's
and
not
be
good.
inside out,
Yeah,
and it's very painful. It can be to varying degrees of severity.
Let me tell Taco if she's watching. So with quail, that can happen if you squish them.
Yeah.
You hold them too hard because they're a little more delicate structure. So if you're picking up a quail and you squeeze them,
that pressure.
You don't want to put a lot of pressure on those smaller
It's like
animals.
when you're holding a water balloon, and you squeeze a water balloon, the water moves to a different spot because of that pressure. Yeah.
All right, cool. And again, I guess the minerals, I just want to go over, I don't want to go too in depth with sodium, potassium, magnesium, which are important because they support the nervous system. But the calcium and phosphorus, you're welcome. The calcium, of course, appropriate calcium amount and sufficient vitamin D are important for absorption of calcium and structure of the chicken egg. One other thing, too, if the chickens are deficient in calcium in their diet, they have something called a medullary bone. It's in their leg. So back in the hind bones, it's a spongy kind of bone, and it's kind of like a backup of calcium. So if they're calcium deficient, they'll start absorbing calcium from their skeletal system. And we don't like that either. So we want to make sure they have chronic calcium. Now that calcium in that bone, it's being used daily. So they're going to use it either way, but they don't use a bunch of it. It's very limited.
If you feed calcium like free choice, or if the feed that you feed them has it in chunks, they'll eat what they need. So sometimes they don't need as much, the next day. So you might see leftover calcium chunks in their bowls, but eventually they'll eat it up. And then in other types of feed, it's mixed in as an ingredient where you won't see it because it's ground.
Where they know what to eat?
Well, in the pelletized types of feed, and sometimes some businesses will use the powder and it will stick to, but they put the amount that they're supposed to have, the 3.5% for the hens.
I want to explain something now too before I move on, because you mentioned the calcium chips.
Yeah,
okay?
and
Two
I
things.
want to say something as well.
Two things. One about the calcium chips. In the gizzard, which we discussed earlier, calcium chips are not grit. Okay, they look to us as humans, they look like little stones, but they're not. They dissolve very rapidly, and grit is necessary. Hard stones like granite are necessary in the gizzard to function as the teeth, because it's going to be sitting there grinding up and grinding up. And there's chickens, you'll see them, people feeding their chickens stones. Well, they're not eating the stones, they're just depositing it into the gizzard to function as their mechanical digestion aid. What were you going to say?
Oh, and then the calcium tends to be like the oyster shells, crushed oyster shells, or limestone, crushed limestone. I was going to say, if you have roosters, chickens, usually they're fine when feeding like a layer feed to them, but if you have like valued roosters that you value, I would recommend feeding a layer feed if you can, with the added calcium, as in chunks, like the crumble, or the crushed form where it's like little tiny pieces and you can see it.
Crushed pellets?
Yeah, not
The
ground,
crumbles.
but crushed. And I would give it as free choice, or add what you want to the feed itself, because if it's a powder and it's sticking to the food and the rooster eats too much of it, he can end up with severe kidney issues, and he
With
can
the
perish.
excess calcium.
Yeah. It's not overly common.
So that's the benefit of the pellets.
Yeah.
Like the chips.
The chips, yeah.
Because he'll know not to eat
It does
them.
happen though. So he'll eat what he needs to eat. Like, he knows what he needs to eat, and he'll avoid eating because he can visually see. It's not like the kidney stones. It's
Toxic.
It's like it stops up the ability for the kidney to function properly. And then he'll get really thirsty and just like trying to drink to dilute it. Yeah, and it just isn't working, and he will likely not, it's just really, really hard on the body, and he might not make it. So I just think it's just best to give it to them as a free choice, so then he doesn't have to eat it if he doesn't want to.
You guys, I have some fascinating chicken facts right now about this whole eating issue with the calcium chips. This is really interesting because a lot of people don't know this. Yeah, I agree with the free choice, and I'm going to explain why. So, nature is exquisitely designed. I mean, it's just amazing the way these creatures are designed, and they're much, much more intelligent than we give them credit for. So the chicken, for example, they employ, birds in general, animals in general, have something called nutritional wisdom. Nutritional wisdom. Mm-hmm. What is that? Well, that is where the animal instinctively knows what compounds to ingest to meet its nutritional needs, its dietary needs. That's correct. The animal knows. If you put we give whole grains, right? Oh, well, you shouldn't give whole grains because, they're not getting all nutrients in a single... Shut up. They don't need all the nutrients in a single pellet. They're getting all their nutrients from...
You mean how the the pelletized foods, they'll have a lot of ingredients in one pellet.
Yes, the pelletized food, but I'm not gonna badmouth that right now. So Yeah, the chickens and birds and animals in general have what's called nutritional wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Their instinct lets them know through sight, smell, experience. They know what compounds they need to eat and they will ingest it in a sufficient amount to meet their needs for optimal health. It's really amazing. That's
Mm-hmm.
called their nutritional wisdom. Animals do that. Now, something else is called zoopharmacognosy. Okay, there's nutritional wisdom, and then there's, that was a bigger word, zoopharmacognosy. What is that? Zoo, animal, pharmakia, pharmaceuticals, okay, medicine. Cognosy, cognition, understanding. So animal, drug, understanding. What is that? So nutritional wisdom is where the chicken goes around and knows what it needs to satisfy its dietary needs. Zoopharmacognosy is an animal treating its illness with compounds out in the environment. They may eat some soil or something if there is a deficiency in a mineral.
Mm-hmm.
They eat different things to treat parasites and infections. It's really an amazing process.
Yeah, and a lot of times during the summertime, you'll see butterflies fly over to like a gross mud puddle, and they're just with their long tongue lapping up at the mud because of the minerals, and or you'll see some nature shows these in the Amazon or whatever, the forest, the elephants or whatever creatures come walking for a good distance to get to that one brown mud swamp so that they can eat and lick the mud
and get better
because
they're treating
there's a
themselves.
mineral. Yeah.
So zoopharmacognosy, animals knowing what to eat to treat illness, infection, parasites, etc. And nutritional wisdom, where the chicken knows what to eat in a variety of food laying on the ground to meet their nutritional needs. That is a real thing, and they do that, and it's more natural for them. So one of the reasons we do feed whole grains, there's a bunch of reasons, but one of the reasons is it's a more natural feeding process. There's a variety of food, and there's a variety of colors, and the chickens do have a pretty good sense of sight.
However, animals in the domestic, well, even wild animals, when given the opportunity to eat, like sugary or fattening junk foods, they will. Yes, they will eat it. And
just like us.
They will eat it over the preferred foods that their body should be eating because, those junk foods there's the breakdown of those foods have parts of it is addictive. So
yeah. I mean, we're all bioadapted to seek high calories, right?
Yeah.
We want, I guess, the low-hanging fruit, that old cliche. We want the high sweet fruit with the high calories to keep us alive. Bioadaptive mechanism from our pre-agrarian days where you needed to survive, We were walking and foraging and expending 1 million calories, so we wanted cheap calories. Well, that desire is still in us. It's still in animals in general. Animals want cheap calories. So I'm not going to walk over there and climb a rock to eat that brown starchy thing when I can just sit over here and eat the sweet white thing.
Yeah, or the donut that the person...
It's just their body talking.
Yeah, so keep that in mind when feeding. You want to make sure that, yes, they may enjoy and look forward to junk foods, but that's going to be detrimental to their overall health and the things that we talked about earlier about the traits you'll see when they're not getting the nutrients that they need. So give them the good stuff.
Give them the good stuff, but not too much. So there's an old saying called "the dose determines the poison." I don't know why. I can't remember who coined that phrase. I feel like an idiot. Anyway, the dose determines the poison. So like any compound that is beneficial, too much of it can be quite harmful, as we know, like iron. We need iron. Helps the blood getting that oxygen around, all that good stuff. We eat too much iron, we go buy caskets. It's not good. So too much is bad. Just the right amount. Remember, we're very complex systems, and these systems should be treated optimally. And the chicken will treat itself optimally, again, through its nutritional wisdom, if given the opportunity. But we, as the caretakers for any of these animals in captivity, dog, cat, chicken, doesn't matter. If you're taking care of these animals, they're in your stead. Now, they're not eating a natural diet. So you're supplementing their diet with something that's, well, basically it's artificial.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not,
waiting for you to feed them.
so you need to meet their nutritional needs outside of their natural habitat. There's a lot of benefits of living with a human. You don't get eaten by other animals. You're less prone to getting crushed by stuff. It's all good,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a trade-up. You don't get the same variety of food. But then again, you don't have to go look for the food.
Mm-hmm.
But because we like our critters, we do our research. We understand our particular animal's need per the type of animal and even its breed, as you
Mm-hmm.
stated. Like even a breed will have specific needs. Pretty obvious with dogs, Chihuahua versus Husky. But maybe not so apparent for you guys in chicken breeds. Chicken breeds may have different amino acid needs, amino acid profiles, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So just do your research on that. I think that's some. What, did you want to say something? No. Okay.
No.
You can. I talk a lot.
Hmm.
She claims that I'm not shy.
Mm-hmm.
I have a talking habit. Okay, cool. Is there anything else you wanted to address in this thing? Oh, this is the Angela special spot because I'm done talking. Influences, this is important. So these are the influences on the metabolic function beyond nutrition. So like I said, we are systems. Chickens are systems too. Food is one component to their overall health.
Mm-hmm.
So I took notes, and you know what these are: environment.
Yeah, so there's
Quality,
different
gut.
things that can affect their consumption of food,
And absorption. Sorry.
or the way they absorb and use the nutrients that the food has. Things like environmental things, like weather. So during the summertime when they're super hot, especially if they're not getting proper ventilation, or maybe the temperatures are just like unusually hot, then they're likely not going to eat as much food at that time or that day, and they're going to be putting more time, focused energy into cooling themselves or staying in the shaded areas. They're going to be drinking a lot more water, but so that's going to affect how much food they're eating. During the cold winter months, they're going to drink less water, but they're going to need to consume more food because that cold is affecting their body temperature regulation in the sense that they're trying to stay warm, and that's using up more energy.
Yeah.
So they have to consume more food to keep the energy going. If the birds are overcrowded, or if there are some not so nice personalities within the flock and they're bullying, creating stress. If they're stressed from their flock mates, then that's going to affect if they're able to get to the food, how much time they can focus on eating. If they're being harassed and bullied, that's going to produce stress hormones within their body, and that will make it harder for them to absorb the nutrients that they need. It's going to potentially cause them to lose weight.
Compromise the immune system.
Yeah, that stress is going to make a doorway, an avenue for them to potentially become ill, because their immune system will be suppressed. Any sort of stress.
It's like a self-reinforcing feedback. You don't keep a clean coop. There's not good ventilation. It starts getting cluttered. They're stressed. They get sick. They're not eating. They're not getting the nutrients they need. They have a suppressed immune system. They're getting sicker. They're not getting the nutrients because they're not eating, so they have even less immune system.
So what you're thinking about is how to meet their needs. And so no overcrowding. Make sure that the space is sufficient for what breed you have, that personalities get along, that if it's hot, there's plenty of ventilation and shaded areas. If it's super cold, that there's shelter from the wind, the harsh elements, weather. So just meet their needs, and then they'll be okay. And also, of course, the quality of the food that they're eating, just like for us, if we're eating Doritos and donuts and sitting around, not moving.
All the time. That's bad. Once in a while.
Yeah, then that's going to affect our energy, and our body's not going to be getting what it needs, because those types of foods.
Do they make chicken Doritos?
I mean, there's probably something you can give them similar to it.
So yeah, nutrition,
yeah.
obviously.
If they're getting the good food that gives what they need.
So one of the tricks in chicken feed and in any product is marketing. Marketing is the way that a product's presented. So when you get feed from a mill, it's just a big, ugly white bag of feed. It's not pretty, it's just a bag. Now when you go to the store, ooh, you got photographs of chickens. They look like they're in chicken paradise. Nobody's dirty. The grass is super green. I want that kind of feed. Well, yeah, that's point of sale marketing, and you see that, and you're like, wow, that elicits my emotions. That's irrelevant. Okay, the package is irrelevant. What matters is what's inside the bag. How long has it been sitting in the bag?
I like to encourage people, if you're thinking about, well, what type of food should I feed them? And we're particularly talking about like chickens and ducks, that sort of thing. If you can get like a whole grain mixed food, it says layer feed, or for mature birds, whole grains and not scratch, because scratch is like a junk food. It's like corn. But whole grains, you can see mixed grains in there, a variety. And then when you look at the ingredients, as Verna mentioned, look at the ingredients. You're going to want to look at the top ingredient, which is going to be the protein source, the type of protein. So there's different types. There's animal proteins, which tend to be like fish meal, crab.
They're the best.
Sea animals.
But they're very expensive.
Swine. There's different types of animal protein used versus plant proteins. Now for the body and how it's digesting and using that protein, we talked earlier about amino acids. The better quality amino acids from the proteins would be the animal type proteins. And so if you can see on the ingredient label, that there's an animal type protein listed, that would be better than a plant. That sort of thing.
But they're expensive. Expensive.
Better quality. You're getting what you pay for no matter what you're buying.
I'm just being transparent with the lovely viewers.
Yeah.
So quality is always more expensive. But again, some of that stuff too, you can always supplement. Especially in the homestead community, you guys know what scraps you have, which ones are safe, and which ones can be supplemented. Like Verna said earlier, when in the summer, cucumber and watermelon for the chickens, for the cooling.
Yeah, they do like that.
But know what you can supplement, particularly with. I'm not just saying feed them anything. If you're trying to supplement an essential ingredient, know what you're doing. Do the due diligence. Yeah. Figure out exactly like I want to meet.
Because that will affect the function of their body.
And these videos we make, the people who watch us, like they're. They treat their animals like family, like they're pets. They care about their chickens. Know what to do when you feed, when your feed isn't what it says, and your birds stop laying. Oh, good point, Vern. Yeah, because that does happen.
Yeah.
That does happen.
Yeah, that's true. Did you want to talk about the gut health at all?
Sure, gut microbiome. Like I mentioned that earlier in the whole digestion discussion. So you have these probiotics in the gut, the microbacteria, that are doing a lot of the metabolic breakdown of these compounds. And as a benefit, they're producing beneficial metabolic byproducts of their own in the form of vitamins and other nutrients. And what else did I write about this? So, the gut microbiome, everybody's got one. Like, we're all made of these little critters inside of our gut. What impairs that? Well, in us, when we take, what do you call it? Antibiotics? No. Biotic, living thing. Antibiotics kill the living things in our gut. So, you'll often hear, if you're prescribed antibiotics, your doctor, I'm not a doctor, by the way, just regaling stories. Your doctor might tell you to eat some kind of probiotic food afterwards, like sauerkraut or what do you call it, yogurt, kimchi,
You're
things like that.
restoring the life in your gut. Those good bacteria, you want to encourage good bacteria in your gut to be thriving and alive and well. They will boost your immune system and your overall health. So when you take an antibiotic or give your chickens antibiotics, remember that's going to affect their gut life.
Well, even without the antibiotics, the stress can be upsetting to the balance of the gut microbiome. Inside of the animal, inside of us, there's hundreds of species of these microbiota. that live inside of us that help us digest things. It's really fascinating. It's a whole other science. I know there's a lot of like fad talk about the gut microbiome now being the cure-all for everything. I don't take that stance. I do say like it is a critical component of our exquisite interdependent system, and we have a very complex interdependent system, and it's the same with the chicken. That it's an exquisite biological interdependent system. All these moving mechanized parts moving together synergistically. We can't just say one thing is, oh, that's it. That's the cause of health. No,
Yeah, right.
that's a contributory factor to overall well-being. The same with the human. You know, we're very reductionist in our points of view because we're human. We need to understand at a very simple level. So we reduce things to a simple, understandable level. But that's not how we function. That's our intuition, and it really screws us up a lot of times.
We tend to want to compartmentalize our body.
Yeah.
But like Christopher said, it's a system. It's all interconnected.
Somebody's not feeling bad. Usually the first things they're saying is like, oh, maybe they got to stop drinking or smoking. But then they might follow up with, oh, yeah, I got to start eating better. Well, okay, great. That's one major part of your system. You know, but there's other things. There's stress, psychological stuff, relationships, sleep, okay, exposure to nature. All these things contribute to the overall well-being of the human.
And
the chicken has needs.
Yes, and the same thing with the chickens. You mentioned the sleep because, you know, here's a simple thing, roosting bars. So when you have a roosting bar, chickens like to roost. And the thing is, sometimes people will put in these nice rounded wood peg, bars. And it looks very pretty, but that's not conducive to the structure of a chicken. They're not Tweety birds. Tweety birds, they like grab with their little twiggy talon feet and they hold onto a stick.
Chickens have those big floppies.
Chickens have flat feet.
Yeah.
And when they're roosting, they should be sitting on a flat roosting bar, not holding like this. So what happens is when they're better to have limbs as roosting bars. Yeah, you want to just make sure that they're able to stand flat, because what happens is if they have to go like this and it'll hunch their body and it'll make their posture in an uncomfortable position for them all night long. As opposed to being flat, they can relax and rest. So you're talking about stress, not getting enough sleep.
Stress. Sleep's important for the human and for the chicken. That's where we do all of our growth. It's where we do our repair. We're not, like after you work out or you do running, okay, all that growth is happening once you're asleep. Your body can actually, because you're doing metabolic stuff while you're awake.
Yeah.
Cool. So gut health, feed quality, environmental stressors can cause problems with, this is all about nutrient absorption. So all these things affect nutrient absorption, feed quality, gut health, environmental stressors. Or anything else I can think of at the top of my head? I don't know. Oh, social stuff. The chickens are social. So if they, like, her silkies are very social. If you get one silkie, she won't sell somebody just one silkie without other co-occurring silkies because they get depressed. Unless there's other chickens.
Yeah, they have to have a buddy because they're constantly talking to each other and they preen each other. They spend time together. Yeah.
I'm going to go over, I was going to end this, but I'm going to give you guys, because I like talking about this stuff. It's very interesting. It's very important. So I want to talk quickly about GMO feeds. I'm not going to get into the whole, what do you call it, controversy. Personally, I'm not big into modifying things and then seeing what happens with the proteins in there and how they react with your delicate proteins. Gut sensitivities, inflammation, possibly. Don't know. Possible. So, and the good people over at Monsanto, we know they don't have any ill will, so they're always good people. Anywho, GMO, what's coming with the GMOs? So we're talking about feeds. We use non-GMO feed, obviously. So genetically modified organisms. So in a lab, somebody's manipulating a gene to make it hardy, most likely, against a pesticide, against insect, and hardy for fertilizer.
Yeah.
So what's happening here with the GMO? So the GMOs got these chemicals sprayed on, obviously, because they're not going to die when they get sprayed. The weeds die. Okay,
the plant's not going to die.
The plant's not going to die. They have desiccants sprayed on them. What are like drying agents, like glyphosate everybody's talking about. So they have these drying agents, once they're picked, sprayed on them. They have fertilizers, chemical fertilizers put into the soil to help them grow. Now, what's happening, this is what's intriguing about the GMOs. This is the thing I wanted to talk about. It's not the GMO itself, it's the soil. So I'm sure you've heard like soil is dead or dead soil. So why do they say this is dead soil or the soil's dead? So with a constant chemical introduction to these soils that are designed to kill bugs, well, they do kill bugs. They kill the microscopic bugs in the soil. The soil isn't, I don't want you guys, don't think of soil as dirt. Think of it as a living organism, because it is. Good farm soil is a living organism. It's just rich with with life. Now, why is this important to the plant? Well, the plant, a lot of the nutrients inside the plant come from where? They're getting it out of the dirt or from the soil. And where are the nutrients in the soil coming from? Just like in the gut with the animals that eat, it's the microbiological life that's producing these nutrients and vitamins in the soil from their own metabolic byproduct. It's really fascinating. So when we spray these fields, because we have a new super crop that we've genetically modified, and we keep doing it, we keep reusing these fields, well, we killed the dirt. Dirt's now just like, that movie, The Martian. We couldn't grow potatoes on Mars. We have Martian soil. It's mostly dead soil. Actually, I did the research on it. So a commercial field will have about 30%, 10% maybe, of the amount of a microbiotic life that organic fresh soil has. Isn't that something? Like 80% could be killed off, 90%.
So then what does that do to the plant?
It makes the plant nutrient deficient. There's nutrient deficiencies in the plant. You're eating a plant or feeding a plant that may be nutrient deficient.
Or harvesting a plant.
Now, exactly to the amount, I will not speak on, I can't say, and I'm not going to guess because it's really going to vary on the soil that it's being planted in. And so I'm not going to say, oh, it's horrible, but it's something to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Looks like everybody's dipping out. And that's okay because I want to dip out too. It's been about an hour. This was a really good chat.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting.
I like doing these academic ones. Verna, if you're still here, thank you for being here. Taco, young lady, thank you very much for your participation. I hope some of this information was useful. And you, lovely new viewers, if for some insane reason you're still here, thanks for coming by. Like and subscribe to this fabulous video. And once we get up to 1,000 humans on our page, which is actually going to be probably pretty soon, maybe we'll do a crappy little giveaway of some sort like they always do on these channels. People love doing that. Okay? Cool. Oh, she is still here. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. And a lot of this stuff we talked about, I hope this was educational for you because I like teaching young people because young people have these magnificent minds and a capacity for thinking. Adults, they get into a rut and they just don't want to learn anymore. But you young people, this is, incremental stuff. Here's a little information. I hope it was useful. And a lot of this applies to the quail. Okay, it's another form of poultry, another type of bird, and their biology's, it's their own biology. It's different than a chicken, of course, but they're very similar in the way they function. I learned a lot tonight. Yay! Awesome. I like teaching. I teach. I have kids, right? They're older now. They're like 17 or 16 and 18, and I taught them how to learn. It wasn't hard on them, but learning's wonderful because you appreciate the world more. And now you appreciate your quails more and their little digestive tracts. Okay. Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okie dokie. Bye, guys. I hope to see you on the next one. This was very fun. It'll be spring. Hopefully, we'll be sweating next week because it's hot and beautiful out. All right. I'm hitting my button. We'll use a phone here. Bye, guys.
Bye.